When we talk about the ocean depths, we're actually talking about the world that feels almost alien. The deeper you go, the more rules of life begin to change. Light fades, pressure rises, and the survival relies on some of the most creative adaptations on Earth. Today, we're going to explore how life pushes the boundaries of what seems possible beneath the waves. This sets the stage for the division of the ocean and the organisms that call each layer home. Each depth zone creates its own version of reality, and species adapt to remarkable ways to survive here. The first thing to understand about the deep sea is the structure. It's neatly divided into layers that differ by depth, light, pressure, and biological activity. The mesopelagic still feels faint traces of the surface world, while the benthopelagic and abyssopelagic slip into the total darkness. Then we arrive at the hadal zone, the deepest places of the planet, hidden in the trenches that drop farther than Mount Everest rises. These boundaries help us organize the ecosystem we will be exploring throughout this lecture, and they give us a way to predict how organisms survive as conditions worsen with depth. As we move deeper, one major reality shapes everything. Food availability drops sharply. Without sunlight, there is no photosynthesis, which means no primary production. Life depends on what drifts down from above or a unique chemical energy source. This simple fact limits abundance, diversity, and behavior. Many of the organisms we see in these depths are adapted to low food conditions. They conserve energy, feed opportunistically, and often rely on bioluminescence signals to capture prey or avoid becoming prey. Even though food is limited, oxygen is usually not. Deep sea currents redistribute oxygen-rich water into the deep, allowing organisms to breathe efficiently. One exception is the oxygen minimum zone, where oxygen levels dip because photosynthesis is absent and respiration continues. Once you understand this pattern, it becomes easier to see why vertical migrators behave the way that they do and how organisms arrange themselves in the water column. This deep sea is quiet, slow, and energy efficient, and the chemistry of the water reinforces that. Now let's zoom into the mesopelagic. This twilight region sits just below the sunlit epipelagic and becomes a highway of animals that migrate daily. Many organisms spend their days in the dim mesopelagic to avoid predators, then rise at night to feed on the surface waters. This daily commute, called vertical migration, is the largest migration on Earth in terms of sheer biomass. These animals must handle changes in temperature and pressure as they move between layers, so their physiology and behaviors are shaped by the constant shifting. This migration also ties the energy of the surface ocean to the deep sea. Some mesopelagic fishes don't participate in vertical migration at all. Instead, they settle into the twilight zone full time, and that lifestyle shapes their bodies in dramatic ways. Their bones are weaker and their muscles look soft or watery when compared to surface species. They don't carry a swim bladder because pressure changes at these depths would make it dangerous. Their strategy is energy conservation. With food being limited, there is no room for waste. Their eyes grow large, sometimes even tubular, giving them a better chance to detect the faintest flashes of light. Their jaws stretch wide and their teeth are long enough to snatch any prey it drifts by. Bioluminescence becomes a tool for hiding or surprising prey, and transparency helps many species disappear into the darkness. When we look at the examples of the mesopelagic fish, we start to see these features come together. Think of fish like the bristlemouth or lanternfishes, which dominate the biomass here. Their bodies are small but packed with photophores, which help them blend in with their dim background. These fishes are not built for speed. They rely on stealth and light signals to manage life in the twilight zone. As we move deeper, keep these characteristics in mind because they will appear again in the next zones. The mesopelagic is not just fishes. Zooplankton, shrimp, and amphipods, as well as isopods, drift through the region in large numbers. Cephalopods, such as small squids and octopuses, also play a major role. These organisms form the backbone of many food webs, especially for migrators that rise at night. Their bodies are often gelatinous and energy efficient. Since they live in dim light, their defenses rely on transparency, slow movement, and bioluminescence. This community is a perfect example of how deep ocean trades speed and strength for subtlety and strength. Once we pass 1,000 meters, the ocean becomes a world of permanent night. No sunlight reaches these depths, so the only natural light you see comes from bioluminescent organisms. Imagine standing in a forest at midnight with no moon or stars. That is the benthic and everything below it. These zones depend on sinking organic matter called marine snow and are rare chemosynthetic sources. The cold is unchanging, often hovering just above freezing, and the stability of these conditions slows everything down. Animals conserve energy and evolve enzymes that work best at lower temperatures. Another challenge here is pressure. It increases by 1 atmosphere every 10 meters. By the time you reach the hadal trenches, organisms experience more than 1,000 atmospheres of pressure. This would crush any air-filled structures, which is why deep-sea organisms avoid swim bladders entirely. Their membranes stay flexible and their enzymes resist pressure changes. Despite these extremes, this environment is incredibly stable. With no season and little light disturbance, evolution moves slowly and creates highly specialized species that survive in ways that seem almost impossible. Once we look at the animals that live here, we notice that countershading disappears because there is no surface light to hide them. Bioluminescence still appears, but it changes in purpose. Instead of camouflage, it becomes a tool for countership or communication. Some species use light to lure prey. Eyes become small or vanish completely since there is nothing to see except the occasional flashes of bioluminescence. Their metabolism slows down and their bodies become soft and lightweight. These changes give them a chance to survive where energy is scarce and pressure is intense. Fishes in these layers share many traits with the mesopelagic residents, but push them even further. Skeletons grow lighter, muscles soften, swim bladders disappear entirely. Mouths grow huge, lined with long needle-like teeth, allowing them to grab any prey that they encounter. Their nervous systems and circulatory systems are less developed because their environment does not demand fast responses. When food is rare, patience and efficiency becomes the most valuable survival tool. Here we're going to compare the lengths of various deep sea fishes. It is easy to imagine everything in the deep being tiny and energy efficient, but there is a surprising variety. Some species stay small and conserve resources, while others grow quite large. Size in the deep sea is shaped by ecological role rather than direct competition. Some large predators rely on rare but high-value prey. Others grow slowly over many years because their stable environment allows long lifespans with slow maturation. Deep-sea fishes push adaptations to its limits. Anglerfishes provide one of the most iconic examples. The lure on their head containing glowing bacteria that attract prey in its total darkness. Their reproduction is just as unusual. Tiny males attach to females and fuse with their bodies. The male becomes a permanent source of sperm while the female provides all the nutrients. Other species communicate with pheromones or rely on both male and female organs. When mates are rare, reproductive creativity becomes an advantage. When we reach the seafloor, the environment shifts again. Life here depends almost entirely on food that falls from above. This material, known as marine snow, drifts slowly down through the water column. Bacteria in the sediment breaks it down, and they work much more slowly than bacteria at the surface because high pressure slows their metabolism. Most animals in the deep sea floor are deposit feeders that sift through the sediment for organic matter. Suspension feeders are less common because currents are weak down here. The variety of meiofauna shows how even tiny organisms carve out unique niches in their quiet environment. One of the most striking patterns on the deep sea floor is gigantism. Many animals grow larger than their shallow water relatives. Think of giant isopods or large amphipods. Growth is slow, but lifespans are long. These animals invest in fewer but larger offspring that are well developed. Reproduction tends to happen later in life. The deep sea creatures this pattern because stability allows organisms to grow at a steady pace for many years. Without major disturbances, a sharp seasonal changes, life stretches out and takes its time. Let's compare how fishes change as we move from the surface into the deepest parts of the ocean. Each step zone shapes the body plan of animals that live there. In the epipelagic, fishes rely on speed and agility, so they tend to be more streamlined with strong muscles and classic countershading. Their eyes are larger for tracking prey in bright light, and their coloration helps them blend into the shifting surface world. As we move into the mesopelagic, both migrators and non-migrators begin to shift towards energy conservation. Vertical migrators still need moderately strong muscles for their nightly ascent, but non-migrators let their muscles soften since they never rise to the surface. Their eyes stay large and sensitive because they depend on the faintest hints of light, and both groups rely heavily on bioluminescence or camouflage, as well as communication. Once we cross into the deep pelagic, their body plan changes dramatically. Streamlining disappears and many fishes adopt globular shapes with flabby muscles. Eyes shrink or disappear completely. Coloration shifts towards deep black or reddish brown that vanish in the darkness. Bioluminescence becomes one of the fewer reliable tools for survival, appearing in many species. On the deep sea bottom, the trend reversibly slightly. These fishes often regain stronger muscles because they interact with these substrates rather than drifting. Their bodies become long and elongated, built for the navigating the terrain rather than open water. Bioluminescence becomes rare here, and most species rely on touch, chemical cues, and slow movement. Hydrothermal vents change everything we expect from the deep sea. Instead of relying on marine snow, these ecosystems run on chemical energy that comes straight from the Earth's interior. Hot, mineral-rich water escapes through cracks in the seafloor, especially along the mid-ocean ridges. Chemosynthetic bacteria use hydrogen sulfide from the water as their fuel source. They perform the same role that plants do in the shallow waters by creating food from a non-biologically energy source. This chemical engine allows life to flourish in a place that would otherwise be barren. These vents create an oasis where life crowds around the warmth, mineral-heavy waters. Many organisms depend directly on the bacteria that form the base of the food chain here. Shrimps, clams, crabs, snails, and even fishes gather around the vent's opening. The tube worm Rafflesia is an iconic example. It has no mouth and no gut. Instead, it hosts symbiotic bacteria inside the body and produces organic molecules for it. Rafflesia thrives because these bacteria have everything they need right inside their worm's tissues. Hydrothermal vents reminds us that the life is flexible and can find a way even in the darkest, most extreme corners of the ocean.